control exactly what people think, and that is our job.
Yeah. Remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media.
I was wondering who did that. Thanks.
Ain't nothing to it. A baby could do it.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
I'm a human being, god damn it! My life has value! It's time to ask yourself what you believe.
Mass murder, torture, perjury, embezzlement, fraud, deception, treason. These are just a few of your many crimes against humanity. You will not win this war, for you are fighting the very essence of humanity.
We make this judgment affirmatively. It will be an entire nation.
All right. I have with me Ben Stewart, that guy that made Esoteric Agenda. I saw the end of your movie. That's what you refer to yourself as, that guy that made the first movie.
Oh yeah, that's right. Written by the weirdo.
Yeah. So I think we talked a little bit about it last time I had you on, but I want to know what, this is taking you back, what prompted you to make, and you also made Kymatica, and you also have another movie on Gaia. Is it Gaia? Gaia television?
Well, I don't have any, all my movies are on Gaia, but what I've done for Gaia is a Limitless series, where it's me direct the camera, and then Psychedelica, which is another series. So it's a docudrama series on psychedelics and shamanism.
Got you. Okay, cool. So what prompted you to make the first two movies? Because those are 10 years old. It was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, a little over it. 2008 and 2009.
Oh, wow.
Esoteric Agenda and Kymatica. What prompted me to do that? There's a lot of answers to that. I feel like everything in my life was leading up to it. Just prior to that, I'd been in a band. I'd been in two bands, but this was like the first very serious band. This band we had back in 2002 or 2003, we were on Lollapalooza. And that was at the very beginning of our career, Hyrosonic. But I was also in the military at the time. And in the military, I wasn't allowed to say all the things that I wanted to say. And like, I couldn't be as expressive as I wanted to, because the military doesn't allow you to have an opinion if you're represented, if they're representing you. So what happened was I'd gotten out of the military. So that's a big reason why I started making films, is because I was allowed to say what I wasn't allowed to say when I was still enlisted.
Wait, one question though. Did you attempt to do that when you were in the military and had a consequence of that? Or you just automatically knew going in that you basically signed your rights away and you're just like, well.
No, and it wasn't even conscious. I wasn't in the military, like, other than with some lyrics for the band, I wasn't sitting there like, damn, I wish I could say some things that I can't say. But it wasn't until after I got out. I think I even had a conversation. I'm not even sure who it was, but I remember the part that stuck out to me was, well, now you can't wear the uniform, and you're also, when you speak, you don't represent the military anymore because you're out. And I just flipped that on its head, and I just thought, like, yeah, there was quite a bit of things that they told us. If the news ever comes up and wants to interview us, we represent the military. We're not allowed to make any statements, right? And then afterwards, I realized, okay, I guess I could make more statements. So it was the realization that I'm allowed to use my voice more that caused me to really look at, well, what would I say if I wanted to use my voice? And in the band, I was already kind of speaking about, just some of the pitfalls that we fall into when it comes to politics, the pitfalls of religious institutions, the pitfalls of like groupthink and herd mentality. So I was already singing about that stuff, but I finally put it into a film where I, like in Esoteric Agenda and Kymatica, I just went straight for the jugular. I just said, these are all the problems I see with the world. And I was pointing a lot of fingers outside until the end, where I said, like, at the end of the day, it's like, you can't blame a vulture for picking dead meat off the side of the road. What it is it's the environment that allows for these vultures to come in. Now, real vultures I have no problem with, but when it comes to cultural vultures, and when it comes more to global parasites that work in realms of magic, but also work in realms of finance and business and all the symbolism that's attached to it, that, you know, everyone calls people conspiracy theorists because they find symbolism on these things, and it's just artwork. Don't worry about any of that. So I finally started calling that kind of stuff out and realized that so many more people wanted, because Hierosonic, my band, I just wasn't being so straightforward with what I saw in the world. In these films, I was being very straightforward, and I think that's exactly why it hit the right time, the right thing to be said. And it was right before YouTube really took off. This was when it was still Google videos. They didn't understand, all those big institutions didn't get the censors right, you know, to squash out all the dissenters. And so it was this like gangbusters. Everyone who knew how to use editing software in any way automatically was a filmmaker. Peter Joseph kind of started the same way. He was doing more of his live stuff, but
what was his movie? It was I know what you mean. I know I can't
Zeitgeist.
Zeitgeist, that's right.
Zeitgeist, yeah. And he was doing those as live performances before, and he was getting such a good response from it that he decided to make it into a film and put it online.
So wait, live performances, was it like poetry? Was it just like presentations? What was it?
I think it was, because I didn't ever attend one. This is just what I heard from him, because I'd met him at 4 of the Zeitgeist Media Festival events, and then we would have meetings beforehand with all the talent. And he would do this thing where he would come out on stage at the Zeitgeist Media Festivals where there would be video going on, and he would be playing like a marimba, an electronic marimba or something like that. Because dude is a great musician. He's got tons of different instruments like percussions, marimbas, a bunch of different things. And he would then play all that on stage to the video that was being projected. So I think that's how Zeitgeist might have started. You know, in school, he was, I think he was going for being a musician, and then he went into, I don't know if it was Wall Street or finance or something like that. And then once he saw the finance thing, he kind of kicked out of it and became a filmmaker. Well, I started as a musician, went into the military, went out of that and went straight into being a filmmaker.
And I'm a musician, and I'm always asking about what is this thing about musicians. I was looking at Amazing Polly's videos, and it looks like she has a guitar in the background, and be like, is that yours? I just seem like, why do you think, like, I interviewed somebody a couple weeks ago. We have to redo the interview, but it was Controversial Reality, and he plays guitar. And then Max Egan, of course, who's an amazing guitarist and musician. And it's just, a lot of people that I find are conscious or kind of have some semblance of what's really going on in the world have some kind of connection to music. And it's just becoming uncanny, because I swear, like, I don't know. Why do you think that is?
You know, art in general, I mean, music is one of the greatest parts of art in my mind. But art in general, it poses more question marks. It's allowed to be interpretive. The more specific it gets, the less it becomes art, and the more it just becomes a manufactured opinion. That's me. That's my way of looking at it. But why do all these people get led into that? Is, I think, because art, it not only to the audience member, it comes across as, let's say, mind bending or soul revealing and all those things. But I think what it does is for the mind of the artist who's channeling it, because let's be perfectly honest, we don't even understand what consciousness is, let alone where music comes from. Yeah. We can try and say, oh, well, it's integrating everything we've ever learned in the past. So it's 100% ours once we integrate all that info. A lot of people say their best ideas for songs, they hear it in their head, and then they scramble to try and get it down on an instrument or record it. And then once it's gone, it's like, fuck, what was that? And then you try and play it again.
It's like a wave.
Like, it's exactly.
Like, and you gotta like grab it. You're like trying to hold on to it. You're like, come back.
Right. And then you realize it's like trying to remember somebody's name. The more you try and force it, the more it turns into like, no, that's not it. I'm losing it more because I'm trying to grab it. So it's like the Tao, you know, the real Tao cannot be held or spoken about. You can't, no one owns the Tao, which is the way. And the way, I like that they don't even call it the truth or the thing, because it's the way, it's the process. It's never ending. And yes, it's more than just truth. So I think that's what art is it causes for the mind of the artist to find out how to align with a reality that's coming through and not let it go. But it's the same thing as Flow Genome Project is trying to teach us how to instigate flow states and how to know when to let it go. When it's gone, it's gone. You need to rest and recover, and it will come back, but you need to ride the signs and the trends of it, like the stock market. I don't know if do you watch Westworld?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't want to give any spoilers. Have you seen it all so far? The
I'm
third
on season 2.
Okay, then I won't get into it. But basically, there's just one part where there's a technology that reads stock market trends, and it knows the greatest probability means it will go here or go here and what the trajectory might look like. It's Hollywood, right? But it's not Hollywood. It's actually what's out there. That's what data aggregators do. That's what supercomputers do. They build models, they simulate models, they check out future probable outcomes or timelines and stuff like that. And in a way, it's like this externalized technology to help us figure out patterns that we have a harder time figuring out. But, you know, to me, what that is like, it's art. Like the stock market is very emotionally driven, kind of like art, kind of like a song. It adapts to the mood that you're in, because I've very rarely heard of any artist saying like, I was in a terrible mood, and I'm sure there's an exception to this, but where they were in a terrible mood or they were really sad, but all they could hear was this beautiful poppy or groovy type of music going on in their head, you know, like, and they're inspired to write this pop song in the midst of their darkness. Usually, if that ever happens, that's when you have like the Lady Gagas that are putting dark stuff into, or more twisted, you know, themes into poppier music. And usually that's like, but what they were drawing upon was like, this poppy glamorous thing needs to be injected with a little dark and Marilyn Manson and that kind of stuff. So I think what I'm leading towards here is the artist and the importance of the artist, and understanding what art is and how we tap into it is exactly what quantum computing, big data aggregators and all of that is really trying to lead towards, is to figure out what is the trend coming up. Because what happens when somebody is in their element so much and they have this song or this movie, and then they crunch it out and bam, it happens. And then it goes out to market and it blows up. It becomes a part of the cultural collective reality. That art influences a bunch of people. It could be said that that artist was just predicting the trend and got to that and said it the right way ahead of time. Like you have a psychic vision of what it would look like. And, you know, sometimes it's 2-dimensional, sometimes it's 3-dimensional, sometimes it's a moving thing. But it's usually the artist that taps into something other dimensional, hard to manifest into this physical reality, but they intuit the way and they do it and they bring it, and then bam, it becomes the it. Now, who's responsible for that? Is that person responsible for that? Can Peter Joseph or can Ben Stewart, can we claim that everything that we did with our pieces of art was 100% ours? No, it's probably based on a lot of our cultural conditioning, our upbringing, our beliefs about what is possible. And those are the constraints by which art comes through. And this is why the Einsteins, they need to go take a shower and F off from their mental constraints in order for bigger ideas to come through. So that's the flow state.
That's what I was gonna make a comment about scientists and people that invent things and have theories and stuff. It's kind of the same situation as music. When they get into that flow state, they're getting intuition or something before they bring it out. It's like, you know, thoughts start with physical manifestations start with thought, you know, but I think that science has been so controlled that, you know, because of people's ego and because of money and because, you know, they basically just box all these people in. So you have all these scientists that are working, but they don't really, the ones that actually do make breakthroughs and invent stuff are the ones that are able to get out of that box. But what I just heard David Icke the other day, he said that with science, people think deeply about things, but they don't think clearly about stuff. So then you're able, because they're not thinking clearly, you're able to have all these like robotic drone, I call them like worker bees, you know, and they just do what they're told to do. They don't have any questions about anything, even though science is supposed to also be very creative. You're supposed to question things, and those questions lead to other questions. There's, you know, but they don't really, you know, they just do what they're told to do. And then, you know, this is why you can lock somebody into, this is why we don't have cures for diseases and stuff, or in mainstream. We do, but it's not mainstream because of the way that science has been, like, you know, taken over.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what you're talking about here is it's influence, and it's closed, and it's not open source, and it's the influence really of the parasite, the grand parasite. Now, I don't want to get into metaphysical terms, but when people are sick with the parasite I'm talking about, it's a spiritual sickness that believes that, I mean, think of the rest of the animal kingdom. There's killing for food, and sometimes there's even lions that kill out of revenge, and they will actually exact revenge upon one animal and then leave the rest alive just to make a statement. That stuff does happen, but we humans have the creative capacity to build what we can call it art. But the reason why we separate art and business is because business has a different kind of agenda, and so do secret societies, and so does magic. So what I'm saying by this is art, usually when I produce art, it's to get people to think in a different way, to open them up to their own empowerment, their own possibilities. That's why I try not to say this is this and this is how things are going to go and this is how your consciousness works. I try to ask more questions that unlock styles of thinking. The difference between that and unleashing business is business specifically has an agenda, and it doesn't, the intention behind it could be completely different. It can be very altruistic, but for the most part, when we look at institutionalized and industrial scale business, what we're talking about is everyone is in this urgent race to the top. There's scarcity mentality, and when you're racing to the top, all that is it's a mental model. Economics is a mental model. This is how we are going to actualize people for labor. This is how we're going to utilize resources, and this is how the streams and the flow of value and what is produced will get funneled, right? And it's so complex, and people think that you need to get into the weeds and get so technical in business and maximize the last 2.002%. But what that really does is it squeezes out, it uses all that energy up here, and it leaves nothing for down here. So that is exactly what business is stricken with. That is a parasite that is attached itself to its host. And anyone who gets into business, you don't have to be sick with that, but there's no way you can be honest about yourself or honest with yourself about what the greater business environment is without realizing that it is sick. It is sick because it forgets systematically about our humanity. So remember when I was saying lions and things like that? That's not systematic. That's not them lions going, and you know what we're going to do? We're going to build a cage around all these animals, and we're just going to bring them in one by one and slaughter them. And then we're going to call that civilized. We're going to say this is the most civilized way we can do it, the most pain-free way we can do it. And then we're going to sell that hope and that dream to them so they're not living in misery, so they can live in kind of this non-resistant, I'm not going to resist the kind of cage I'm in until it's about time to be slaughtered and it's too late, right? So that to me is the grandest difference. And I know I kind of deviated from what your question was, but I kind of think that's That's at the core of what people are stricken with. And so when we're talking about, you know, the industry, that's millions and millions of people and all their intentions together. But if one person wants to change it, you can't, because it becomes its own organism.
So I'm thinking of like business itself, or like because my channel is a business, what you're doing is a business, or you're just talking about like the culture of business or the business model, or as corporate business, like can you make those or is it all together?
No, everything is a tool. Every aspect of consciousness, everything in existence is a tool to be used. That says nothing of its intention. So business is not good nor bad. It's a tool. We with consciousness who wield tools can either do things that would fall into our concept of good or bad. And I think the reason why I even mentioned that is because you were mentioning David Icke. And you were saying that he, you know, with science, you can think deeply, but you may not be thinking clearly. Well, that's kind of what I meant by getting into the weeds and all the details and how we can throw, you know, very, very good people in jail. And the judge even knows it. But why does the judge have to follow that? Because the system is so complex that it calls you to trust it. Like the science institutions, it calls you to trust it. Like, no, trust the process. The process is, if the details tell you that you need to throw this man in jail, you need to do it, because it may not look good when you're staring at one person, but when you look at the grand thing, there is order. But that is causing us to look at everything like a math equation and not look at it like humans. So business mentality, at large, what it does, it's the same thing when you're trying to figure out a math problem. You're not going to be in your heart more than your head. That's just logical. You're going to be in your head more. So business is driven around that. Now, why is business so big? Because there's a legal system that gives it full, in a sense, limited liability to damage the environment, to put people in jail that do not belong in jail, and to justify a system that can be corrupt, but on paper it's not corrupt. It can just be very, very corrupted. But even if it's corrupted, you still need to uphold. That judge still needs to, I'm sorry, it's a technicality. So the editor of a film I'm working on right now has been going to jail every few months because he used to make a certain amount of money. He divorced his wife and he signed a contract saying, I will give you this amount of money every single month until our kids are this age. But he lost that job. Now he has a job under the amount of money he was supposed to be paying out. So he's going broke trying to give any money whatsoever. And the issue is the judge is sending him to jail month by month because he can't afford to pay that price. So he lost his job because of that. Now the judge is sitting there straight-faced and saying to him, this is technically what I have to do with you. And he's gone to jail several times for that. So what I'm saying is, business is not bad. Law is not bad. Any of these systems are not bad, but we are spiritually sick. So when we are spiritually sick, then you can have a father that will go home to their kids and be a good father and think they're an upstanding citizen, yet still put another father in jail because technically on the books, I have to. When really that judge could say, you know what, I'm setting a precedent, or you know what, like I refuse to call on this. There's so many ways that judge can say, you know what, I'm gonna take this hat off because I don't believe this hat is functional in this circumstance. So imagine AI, and AI is your new government and it's taking care of everything, but it comes to find out that some people of, let's say, a certain color, or they believe a certain religion, or they're anti some faction of AI. If you don't believe in it, then you are a threat and we need to put you into this system. Oh, and I'm sorry, the system happens to be a meat grinder, literally. So you're going to die very painfully because you didn't believe in this. The whole system, to most people, 99% of people won't experience the meat grinder, but that 1% of people who do, it's so incredibly unfair, you know, like child sex trafficking and things like that. you know, it's just so incredibly dark and twisted, but everybody else, they don't have to look at it. And they're, you know, we get the convenience of being able to, yeah, but you can change the channel and just watch Chef's Table on Netflix, or you don't have to look at that. And, oh, we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to work it out. But that's the thing, the whole system, if you look at it deeply enough, the system of law is plugged into this system of economy, because there's no court case whatsoever that is not about money. There is no court case in existence that is not about money, except for like when we're talking civil, you know, but for the most part, it's maritime admiralty. So if there's corruption anywhere, you think if you have a, you know, a rotting tooth, it's not eventually going to take over the health of your entire body. So this is what we're not seeing. We need actual health care for our legal system. We need health care for the institutions of economy that brainwash people into thinking. Those are the blind minions that follow this science. Thank God our data is telling us that we must vaccinate the entire world. And it's very clear. Our data is very clear. Can I see that data? Nope. It's closed source. That would violate our privacy laws. Well, so you're saying that I just have to take a leap of faith and trust your data is telling you something, and you know, in any other, it'd be slavery, you know, or it'd be rape, or it'd be, you know, any of these types of things in any other circumstance. But for here, we're just meant to believe it. And that's just vaccines. That's just, totally. You know, to me, the stupidest of the stupid. That's like, it's not about anti-vax. It's about the choice to let a government stick you with a needle of questionable materials. Like, but nobody seems, everybody follows this. Are you anti-science? Oh, you must be anti-government. You know, like, no. I just don't like people I don't know sticking me with serums I have no way of checking the validity of or the safety of.
Exactly.
You know, that's
exactly.
So we have a system that defers liability. It defers attention away from truth by omission. The media, it doesn't have to get into conspiracies. It omits it. It ignores it. It doesn't talk about it. And it knows that it still has 60 to 70% of all the eyeballs, right? That's a system that is sick. It's corrupt. So when you ask, is business in itself sick? No, because business in itself is magic. Business is the exact same thing as magic. You have a vision, and then you make a strategy. And then you execute that, and then you turn the strategy into action steps. You execute the action steps, you measure it, and then you adapt according to what feedback you got. You know, so that's real science. That's also real business. That's also real magic. But when other people saying, oh, we're following science, no, you're following dogma. And that's the one thing that most people don't know how to discern between is, but I read it in Scientific American, right? You know, like that's where I read it. So it's science. It's
become a religion to them because they're not really verifying or like questioning what they read. They're just taking it as, like you said, dogma.
And they're the ones policing everybody.
Yeah, like that was one of the things when I started to wake up to the vaccine issue that I realized is that like, people are always talking about science, but then when you talk about, you know, they just assume that all these safety studies have been done and they assume that, you know, the ingredients are safe, but they've never really done the research. And usually when there are people that criticize vaccines go against somebody that was like, you know, pro-vaccine or loves vaccines, the person that is critical of vaccines like always just like run circles around them because these people are just kind of, they're religious zealots basically.
Yeah. You know, like the one thing I want to say that I'm picking up historically as I research, and really it just makes the most amount of sense, is a lot of what we're dealing with today in America and globally were the issues that sent the entire world into World War I and World War II. We're talking about what is the economic future. It was right on the heels of the Industrial Revolution. Now we're on the heels of another revolution. You can call it the augmented age, or you could call it the AI age. But in that, economy is going to change. So we're still talking about socialism, communism, capitalism. We're still hung up on that, even though we're like, didn't we stop talking about that after World War I or World War II? No, because in nations, that was a month ago. in nations' lifetimes, that was a month ago.
Yeah.
Now, when we're talking about why are we using the same exact type of propaganda and tactics that Nazi Germany was using? It's, you know, it's so easy to just be like, oh, we're turning into Nazi Germany. Well, no, we've adopted the things that worked back then, and we're not any more truthful. The world isn't any more truthful with itself than it was back then, even with the internet. So a lot of people were like, oh, this explosion of free information. You think when you check out Google, you're actually seeing the internet? You're seeing 0.004% of the indexed internet. And then that is squashed down to, here's the priority that Google will want you to see it in. If they don't want you to see something, they'll either not list it, shadow ban it, or keep it at the very bottom of the list.
Or they'll put the people speaking against what you want to see at the top
First, right?
So
yeah.
So lazy people, like my brother's like one of these people I've talked about on the channel. I'll tell him something, and then he'll look up and he'll choose the very first link and be like, oh, well, you know, Bill Gates said he doesn't like want to, you know, kill people with vaccines, so it must be true. So because that's the first link, you know. Exactly.
And you know what? This is sales mentality that goes back farther than Nazi Germany, far farther than that. So when I say, like, you know, aren't we done talking about socialism and capitalism? That was 100 years ago. No, now let's go back even farther and say the tactics that religious institutions, now remember, religion is an aspect of consciousness. Religious institutions are what humans do together to influence and gain power and gain credibility, which is, again, all about power. So the tactics of religious institutions were trust us, just trust us. And we have the numbers, so trust us. And most people, if you're thinking at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you just want security, then you will see, like schools of fish, you know, a sheep in a herd, you know, you feel safe in numbers. So the first thing that the whole thing about business and magic, and the reason why we're talking about the Illuminati doing magic rituals, but they're also deeply embedded into business, is because they're the same exact thing. They just show different symbolism and they focus on different words, right? So if you go back into the tactics of how religion actually did, religious institutions and crusades convinced people, you see those women over there playing with herbs? We're gonna burn them alive. We're gonna drown a bunch of them, and then we're gonna behead a bunch of them in front of the town. And it's because our loving God told us to do that. You in? And they look at the witch with no cronies, and then they look at this person with like 20 people on horseback and swords, and they're like, yeah, I guess she's a witch, right? Yeah. So this is what most people deal with when it comes to conspiracy, because they're like, do I want to side with people that might be looked at as terrorists in the next few years, or the military industrial complex and the entertainment branch called the media, right? So that's really what we're talking about.
Thought. It's done through social control,
exactly,
not even through physical, you know, control.
I'm building out my website right now, and it's got 3 plans, pricing plans. Cheers. So like you go to Zoom and it's like, get the basic plan, get the premium plan, get the elite plan, right? And then there's a little ribbon on top, which one has the best value. They never put it on the elite one. They always put it on the middle one, right? Yeah. Because they know that the people with enough money for the elite one don't give a shit about money. They'll buy it anyway because they know they're getting what nobody else can afford. The other 2, they know that stingy people, they really want the basic price, but they really want the best value for it. So if you put the best value, that's psychological sales mentality. So the same thing is with the Google. Okay, well, we're not really lying to the people. We're just putting our pro-vaccine or our pro-this or anti-that, whatever it is, at the top, because that's sales mentality. You're not selling people through money. You're just selling them an idea, so they'll fall on this side of the voting line or that side of the voting line. It's the same mentality, and it does come all the way back from the religious institutions. So now what did science do? They took all the same, like we have capitalism and we're stealing from Nazi Germany, right? This, you know, we're stealing from their playbook, but we call it capitalism. Science is stealing from the religious institutions playbook, and they're calling it science. And they're saying, oh, religion, that was for stupid people, but we took all of their tactics and we're using it on the same people. So the thing is it's like there's always a lower herd mentality. I'll believe whatever I'm told by authority. And if that authority gives me an argument to say, no, it's science, it's not dogma, it's science. Just look at my website, because they give you the website. It's like multi-level marketing. It's like if anyone asks you what our product is, this is the copy. You put it on your front page. You know, if they have any questions, you send them to this link. That's what the mentality of the most amount of people on this planet are operating under. And it is brainwashed. But the thing is let's not be elitist about it. We're all brainwashed. Everyone is brainwashed, because if you look at the core of what brainwashing is you're influenced by things that are outside of your concept. You're influenced by things that you can't even conceptualize. That's 100% of people and things in the universe. So the thing is that's why awakening is the way. It's the process. It's not the plateau. It's not the thing that you eventually get like, fuck yeah, I'm finally enlightened. I got it.
There's a prize, there's a prize at the top. It's always a process,
You're continually cracking your head open to let more in. But what does infinite amount of head cracking open look like? It looks like a donut, like a toroid, a torus. And so when you crack it open, it folds in on itself. And that's the energy field. That's what we're constantly doing. We're constantly learning. And so here's I guess the thing that I teach people in my coaching, which you've gone through, like I would say like an early evolution of it, and where it's going now. What I'm teaching people with this coaching is really how to break out of the mentalities that force us to be a part of a majority that we don't agree with anymore. So it's awakening mentality. So it's like, how do you align your goals for your financial future and your spiritual future with that thing that you know reality is? It's this ever unfolding process of enlightenment. Because every time you have an awakening moment, it's not your last unless you choose not to learn ever again.
Yeah. And so, hold on one thought. When you said that, I think about too, this is how a lot of people that in college are brainwashed, because they get to this point and they think that they've reached that apex, right? And they're they're done learning. So I think a lot
college kid syndrome.
Yeah, or I think a lot of people that are educated have been to college. And I mean, I went to college and I graduated, but I don't have like a master's or a PhD or anything. But it's like, a lot of people that have been to college and then they go to master's or PhD or whatever, they have this mentality that they're done learning and there's nothing you can teach them. And I swear these end up being, unless they have some kind of desire or passion to keep learning, those are the worst people. Those are the most closed-minded, brainwashed, arrogant, vicious people that I've come across.
Yeah. It's really important to also be fair, because I was putting a lot of attention on the systems that people go through that brainwash them. But also, there are certain people that never fall out of that very vicious, asinine attitude because they find a way that it works for them. They get what they think they want out of it. So let's say they're at a bar and they pull a Matt Damon and they school somebody who was hitting on the girl that they wanted to hit onto, and they win at the end of the night, right? They go home with the girl. They think of that as a win, and it's such a glorious moment in their life that they use that mentality 10, 15, 20 years down the line when no one gives a shit anymore, right? Yet they're still in that mentality. It's like when you have that crazy old uncle that still used the same jokes that were kind of funny 10 years ago, and now it's just like, yep, there you go again. So it's the not growing, it's the not learning. And I called it college kid syndrome because I think I was at this part before, but when you learn a ton of shit, but you haven't had the time to really integrate it, apply it into life. Like, remember when I was saying, you learn something, that's part of your philosophy and your strategy, but you haven't employed it yet, and you haven't gotten feedback yet. And so you haven't learned how to adapt to, does it really work, and does it continue to work? So college kid syndrome is when people learn a bunch of shit and then they go online and they yell at people and they argue with them and they tell them how stupid they are because they don't know, they don't have the education that they just got in school, right? So that's the, like, where ego takes over and it hijacks us. So the whole process of awakening is all around acknowledging what our ego is doing with all the information we use. Because I've ever heard the mind is a dangerous tool. You know, it can be a very dangerous tool. It's because the mind is a tool. But the thing is if you don't get rid of your ego, or if you don't at least start acknowledging that your ego is the one that is driving it, and the ego is always working off of old models and fear and self-preservation. So it is not up to date. It doesn't have the, 2020, update attached to it. It's still that 4-year-old child that got shut down by their very difficult parent, right? Or something, or who was traumatized somehow. That's what the ego is operating off of. So the thing is we are very dangerous to ourselves. And this is why we have so much media saying that everything is about how humans are the biggest threat to the world, right? And AI, when AI takes over, the first thing it realizes that, oh, humans are fucking up the place, so we need to take out all humans. That's like the Hollywood trope. But the thing is it's not humans. It's not humans, because not all humans are like that, meaning it is possible to be immune from that. But we are not immune, meaning we're sick. We're sick as a species. And even the bodhisattvas, the one who get to nirvana, they have realized the illusion of all of this, but they've realized that the heart is the only thing that heals in our communities. It's the only thing that heals in the world, and everyone's in the head, so nobody's getting healed. So the bodhisattvas are the one that comes back from heaven into all the shit, into the sick world, where everyone's wearing masks and freaking out. And they're the ones walking around without a mask and saying, it's your mind. It's your mind. You're sick, right? So that's, to me, this is the type of world we're in. And this is why any and all worthwhile training, any and all worthwhile movies, any and all worthwhile art or whatever, all business should be devoted to the same thing. And that's the acknowledgement of how powerful we are and how incredibly, let's say, innervated our tools are with our ego. Our ego has innervated every single one of our tools. It's infiltrated everything, unless we start acknowledging, oh, that's my ego that wants to yell at this guy. Or that's my ego that wants to be sarcastic and really show this person they're an idiot without having to say it, right? Because we all try and get, the only thing about like being an adult is we become sophisticated children. We're still using junior high tactics of jabbing at people, but we're really, really intelligent. We use things from Scientific American when we jab at people. So we think it's so sophisticated that you can't tell we're still a wounded child on the inside. That's why my training, my website, my art, and why I make music, that's why I'm here on this show, is because we are sick and we need to wake up to it.
So we went on a huge ass tangent, by the way.
What was the question? I can't even remember.
I don't know. I can't even remember either.
Fuck it.
I tend to flow with you. There's some people I interview and I write a list, and you're one of the people I just feel like I have a few to start off with, and then we just go, So, but I wanted to know, what was the response to the first movie that you did, and then we'll get into talking about why you made the sequel. So
you're talking about response
Agenda, Chromatica, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would say if I had to put numbers on it, maybe 50%. Well, no, I mean, like probably 70% of the emails I received were overwhelmingly like, thank you, this changed my way of looking at the world. A portion of that, I would say another 5, 10, maybe 10% were people that were just lost. They were like, fuck, like I know what you're saying resonates, and I know it's probably very true, but now I don't know what to do with my life. And they were just utterly derailed by it. And then there was another, let's say, 10 10% that hated me and either threatened my life or basically just tried to use every intellectual tactic they had to get under my skin. I had a lot of that, but it was 10% of the emails, but it was very loud. It was extremely loud. Of course.
I have a question though. What were the things that they would say, if you don't mind me asking?
I mean, some of it was intelligent, some of it wasn't. The unintelligent stuff was like, Ben, do you think we didn't notice the Freemasonic symbolism as the cover of Esoteric Agenda? It's obviously Freemasonic. You're obviously a Freemason, and I hope you know there's going to be masses of like angry mobs coming to kill you, and I'll be one of them. I don't mean you any, but here's how he said it. He actually said, I don't mean you any harm, but I am telling you that there are people that will hunt you down and kill you for being a Freemason, and I'll be one of them. Do you catch the contradiction? And kind of I don't mean you harm, but I'm going to be a part of an angry mob that's going to kill you. Like, that was one of them. And this guy, he was like, it's 2 a.m. and I need to get my kids in school because I need to get my kids to bed because they have school tomorrow. So my only response to him was, I don't know what's scarier, the fact that you can't even realize whether you're threatening me or not, or the fact that you have children. You're actually bringing more of you into the world. But some of the more intelligent ones were people saying that in a sense, these were just scare tactics because I never received anyone arriving at my door. But there were people that would use more psychological tactics, like I've forwarded this along to the FBI, and the FBI red flagged your name. You won't be able to use your credit card from this point forward, and it was like very well worded to seem like very legit. And so I just waited, and nothing happened. And it was probably like, how do we mess with this guy? Because he messed with me, I'm going to mess with him type of thing.
This is your first movie?
This was Esoteric Agenda. This was
I'm sorry, I'm not like laughing. But
at 25 years old, getting these emails. I was just a musician who happened to make a viral film, and I'm like, what the hell?
I remember I saw it probably around 2010, 11, so a couple years after. I thought that's why I was thinking it was made around that time, but it was 2 years before that. Mm-hmm. I watched it. I was like, this is the best shit ever. Like, I can't even imagine. Like, if I don't like a movie, I'll like tell other people that I don't like it, but I'm not gonna like give people like, who has time for that? That's insane.
Well, let's do a thought experiment. If you had to guess, what were those people going through? If you had to just make an intuitive guess, what would move you or somebody else to actually take the time to email a filmmaker to tell them either to threaten them or to tell them you're going to burn in hell, you know nothing about God, you know nothing about religion, you're going to burn in hell for all of eternity, and all your friends are going to... What would move someone like you, to actually do that? What kind of state would you have to be in? What kind of movie would it have to be?
It would probably have to be like an intensely pro-vax movie. Like, that's people know. But even at that, like, I'll just review it and tell other people. Like, I'm not gonna. Right. Yeah, I mean, I did leave Bill Gates some mean comments though, but I never threatened. Oh well, I never. I never said I was gonna kill him. I think I said I went to river dance on his privates or something like that. I don't think.
See, and you know what? Like, that's the thing. Like, I think that's funny. And there were some people who sent me some like very clever, witty emails, and I just sent them back a message like touche, or well said or something like that. Because I don't care. Like, people are going to dislike my film. I don't care. I was in a band before, and there were people who loved the music, and there were others that were like, yeah, dude, I'm just not into it. Or, dude, you're not good. You guys aren't good. And like, I've heard it all. So I know that like there's styles and tastes to certain things. Yeah. But here's why I said about that thought experiment is because you mentioned the pro-vax thing. Now imagine that a film came out, pro-vax, that actually started getting even the president and, everyone in politics and everyone on board and saying, you know what, we need to mandatorily hold everybody down and inject them. Because this film just made it so clear that we got to do that.
Yeah.
Would you then send them an email, and maybe it wouldn't be the same way. Maybe you wouldn't threaten their life. But the thing is the way that I'm trying to answer that question is they probably felt that by me putting that message out there, that their world is rapidly going to change into a direction they're not okay with and they're uncomfortable with and they can't envision, so they don't know if they'll feel comfortable in that new world.
Strategically, I don't think I would attack the movie or the person that made the movie. It's because it's done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The movie's already out. It's done. What are you going to do?
Right.
I tried just to find some way to counter that information.
Yeah.
By reviewing it, talking about, pointing out, like, I would probably get clips and break down why they're wrong, why I think they're wrong about stuff.
Yeah.
And that's just more my way of dealing with things. To me, that's just seems like it's going to be more effective. And
True.
And then when you start doing stuff, when you start attacking the people that made the stuff personally, and that, the ad hominem attacks, it's like, it goes to show that you're at fault, that there are holes in what you believe in when you start doing stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'd feel that way, but I wouldn't handle it that way.
Right. And, I think that's the thing about the heart. I really do. The thing where the heart is where all medicine begins and ends. It really is. And I think, even people who are slightly sick in their heart, and even the neurology in their heart, they'll die of other things. And people will say, oh, he had a strong heart. No, I mean, like, what we're really talking about is the ones who threaten other people's lives are the ones who they actually didn't go through a logical thought process. So they were in panic mode. So they weren't in their heart. They were hardly in their head. They were at the base of their spine. And the reason why I say that is because that's that thing that, even chronic masturbation comes from fear. And there's studies surrounding, it's not always out of fear, but some cases of chronic masturbation is because of the oxytocin dump that you get, because there's many neurochemicals that comes after, orgasm, but it's also this feeling of control, and why people are into pornography. And then when they're into pornography, it needs to get weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder. And why? Because when we feel like the outside world is becoming weirder and weirder and we don't get it, and it's becoming more cloudy and confusing, then we want a private way to control it. And so this is a very rudimentary way of trying to explain that whole anomaly of pornography and chronic masturbation. But what I'm getting at is, where fear actually bleeds into and causes a sick heart, it does it in ways that we just don't know about. So at the base of the spine, when we're in fear, we're in that fight or flight. Now, a lot of people say, oh, well, that's in the brain. It's in the brain stem, and the brain stem goes all the way down to the root of the spine.
Yeah.
So I guess here's what I'm saying is, you have a heart that would keep you from actually saying something that would cultivate more hatred. So saying, I want to river dance on your privates, that's not really cultivating hatred, because it's a joke, and you could see a stand-up comedian getting up and saying something like that, right? And it would make people laugh, but it would also get them thinking. But what I'm saying is the people who come from, and they only share their fear and they share their hatred, they share their fear by being hateful, and they're cultivating an environment where more hate can grow out of that. That is devoid of heart. And to me, I think that's actually what's being cultivated by mainstream media and a lot of Hollywood. Not all of it, but a lot of the tactics are there. Like, I'm sorry, but like...
And academia.
But like, say Bill O'Reilly or something like that. He's this, pundit. Not even a pundit, he's an anchor. But anyway, if you watch him reading through emails of people who send him, I don't believe that what you said is correct and blah, 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 he'll just give this kind of posture and this attitude and this tone. And, he's very, very pompous, because what he's doing is he's programming the people that are open to being programmed, that if anybody ever says, you know, will show me the evidence, just say blah, blah, blah. If anybody ever says you're too pro this or anti that, just act like this and wave your head around. And that's actually what people are being taught. Because if you think about it, we're still children. How do children learn? Less through words, less through the concepts, more through posture, more through facial expressions, and more through the subtle undertones. You know, and to me, that's exactly what is at the core of our sickness, is all of the people we get our information from are convinced of themselves. So why do I make art that I say a lot of things and I put a lot of topics out there, but for the most part, I'm really trying to engender critical thinking, because I don't want people thinking that Ben Joseph Stewart is right. I really don't. That defeats the whole purpose of what I'm doing. I want them to realize that when I say things that resonate with you, you are the one that needs to develop that, cultivate it, foster it, and grow the skills and you know, the ability to discern between fact and fiction. What do I resonate with? What do I not resonate with? What is an efficient and heart-based approach to this very volatile topic, like of vaccines? You know, the vaccine approach that I took in my film was, nobody's talking to, you know, not many people are talking to Bill Gates specifically, acting like a doctor, telling me how Ben Stewart should be healthy, and saying that it's because of his data and the way that he views the world and his private view of the world. Like, no, Bill, I'm not going to talk to your data or any of the cronies. I'm going to talk to you. I'm not taking your health advice because I'm pretty sure you wouldn't take my health advice. If you do take my health advice, then whatever, let's talk. And then the woman with Neil deGrasse Tyson, who was saying that it's like, anti-vaxxers, they're really more anti-government and they're anti-science. And it's like, sorry, lady,
yeah,
no.
She's morbidly obese too.
Right, and this is who we get our health advice from.
Yeah, I'm sick of, like, you know, these people that want to act like they're like our health experts, and you look at them and they're either like morbidly obese or underly skinny, or they have rings under their eyes, or they have super bad skin, and like all those are all signals of not just like, oh, a little bit unhealthy, like horribly, terribly unhealthy people, you know, or they're on all these medications, or they have tics. I'm like, you don't know nothing. Like, why? No. Yeah, I noticed that too. And I'm starting to really get enraged, especially with the coronavirus stuff that's going on too. And then you have these people, you know, giving us, and Bill Gates, he's a college dropout with no, you know, with no medical degree. Yeah. So why are we even listening to him?
Well, you know, that's the question. But the thing is the people who need to, let's say, mull over that question are the ones least likely to mull over that question.
Yeah.
You know, who is Bill Gates? Why should we get our info from him? You know, like I showed in my film where he says, well, the data is very clear. Vaccines are a miracle. Anyone who undermines that, that's what I'm worried about. And the rumor mill often, you know, and he's using these words like rumor mill. What does that mean? The rumor mill, like anybody who says anything against what I say is the rumor mill. Right? Yeah. That's a soft way of saying conspiracy theory.
And they know a lot of people are lazy too, and they're not going to actually.
It's because it's all about authority. Like what we listen to is authority. It's like for the majority of us, we listen to authority.
Yep.
A small fraction of us who have awoken, we realize that no, truth is not in the domain of authority. Truth is actually a threat to authority. Mm-hmm. And this is where conspiracy theory comes up. That phrase is being thrown around right now so much. Even now CNN's calling Fox News conspiracy theory and vice versa. And it's just, let's just use that word everywhere. You know, it's just like, there's no ketchup on my plate. That's a conspiracy theory, right? Like everything.
I think you might find this interesting. So I'm reading this book in Spanish on logical fallacies, and they even talk about it in the Spanish book that I'm reading. I'm like, oh, that's just theoreticals and conspiralistas or something like that. I'm like, in Spanish? Can I get a break? Can I get a fucking break?
You can't get a break because this sickness has infiltrated us in power organizations and families. This is where David Icke is completely right. you know, and I'm not saying he's anywhere completely wrong. I'm sure he is, because we all are somewhere in our thinking. But where he's really right is most people are like, well, show me the evidence. Okay. You're going to go to Google and try and find the evidence of what company, you know, what families have funded and created the framework and the protocols by which the educational system and the WHO and the United Nations, you think you're going to find that information on Google? Like, oh, I didn't find any evidence, so the evidence doesn't exist, meaning you're wrong. That's a baseless conspiracy theory that the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds, which I don't even mention their names anymore, because it's less about pointing fingers at people anymore. We just need to wake the fuck up. Seriously, if we were to wake the fuck up, nobody would care about their names. No one would care. But the thing is critical mass of waking up is not 7 billion people. It's 10,000 people of the right caliber. And that's why it is incumbent upon us to be like, you know what? It's a sick system, but I'm not trying to wake people up to, you know, to certain truths. I'm not trying to wake the wrong group up, because they're just going to be asleep on either end of the argument. Even if you do convert them, they're still going to be asleep, but there's a cream of the crop that want to awaken. So it's confusing, because like, well, who's right? Is it the left or is it the right? It's just like, that's the wrong way to look at it. It's like saying, you know, well, there's humans in the pool and there's humans outside the pool. Where are the humans? Are they in the pool or are they out of the pool? Well, that's the wrong question. But the thing is mainstream media keeps you focused on the wrong question. Politics in general keeps you focused on the wrong, misleading question. So the real question is, who's your audience and who needs to be awoken? And how many people do you have to block and delete to realize who your audience truly is? It's not the people who are trolls. And I used to think like, oh, well, I'm trying to wake up the world. I'm not anymore. I'm not trying to wake up the world. I'm trying to engage with my tribe. And my tribe are the ones, it's so fucking easy now. People who are like, oh my God, Ben, you are blah, 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 blah. It's like, thank you for outing yourself. Block. You know, it's just like, well, show me the evidence, Ben. Here's the evidence. That's not evidence. Block. I don't care anymore, because the thing is, it resonates or it doesn't. You're either part of the tribe or you're not. And if you're part of the tribe, you'll know it at first glance. If you don't, block.
Yeah, you know, it's funny though too. I would let those people make me feel guilty, because I would say I used to give people.
I can change them.
Or I'd just be like, you know, you keep talking like that, I'm gonna block you. And they're like, oh, that means you're not for freedom of speech. And then I'm just like, maybe they're right. Like I would really get in my head. And now I'm just like, yeah, I don't like to be harassed. Block. You know.
Yeah.
You know, like
my
whatever.
website doesn't foster hate. Sorry, block.
Yeah.
My Facebook channel doesn't foster hate. Sorry, block. My email address, you know.
Yeah, no, but you know what I found? I'm finding, I don't know if you're finding, I think I'm not getting as many trolls, especially about certain subjects, as I used to get like a decade ago.
Same here. Honestly, that's been like one of the biggest things that I've noticed since Esoteric Agenda 2 came out. So since Esoteric Agenda 2 came out, I've really gotten, I would say, remember I said 70% amazing emails, 10%, you know, want me to die and burn in hell. Well, now I haven't received a single email of anybody threatening me. So that's a plus. I haven't received a single person that's, now on Gaia, there's a couple people thinking that I love 5G because I think, you know, if you can't beat it, then find ways to mitigate the harm of it. You know, while we're dealing with trying to stop this harmful technology from being rolled out, how do we mitigate the harm on our body? Oh, well, you think we just need to live with it and, you know, like live with 5G? You think we need it and you're in love with it? No, I don't think that's the case. What I do think is that my documentary is not going to stop a multi-trillion-dollar pursuit of putting up 5G technology. So in the interim, until I figure out what kind of documentary will do that, we need to figure out how to deal with the fact that these EMFs are actually going to be bombarding the body. But when you say that on these threads, it gets so convoluted that it's just like, I don't even respond anymore. I don't even jump into those forums, because it's like, you want to come to our party where we hate everything, just about everything, we hate it, and that's all we talk about? You want to come to this party? Nah, I'm cool. I'll stay over here in my party where we're open-minded, right? You know, so there's certain threads, you know, if there's people that, and if it's the dominant group of the people, I may drop a bomb in there and just say, I love you all. You know, like, and they don't know how to conceptualize it, but the ones who do know how to conceptualize it, they're like, dude, thank you so much. And then I'll message them directly and say, why are you at this party? Leave the party, come to my party. Like, it's much better. These guys, because for the most part, trolls to me have mostly been guys, and the girls have been worse, you know, I would say, because they're maybe even smarter, even if they are girls, I don't know. But it's like the girl trolls seem to do it in more emotionally manipulative, where the guys are just kind of like, what up, bro? You want to fight? And so, you know, like, so.
That's how women are.
Yeah.
And we're going to take a short break. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. Okay. And we're back. First of all, I want to congratulate you, because your film got removed, your sequel to Esoteric Agenda. That means you're onto something, right? Whenever you have somebody attack you or you have your video removed, that means that you were striking a nerve somewhere. So
yeah, I made it quite easy for them to find it. You know, I tagged it with words that I probably shouldn't have if I wanted it to stay up there. But to be perfectly honest, like, I knew it was going to get taken down. And it was only, I forget now how long it was actually up there for.
I know the first 2 days it was like 10,000 views or something like that, or more.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't even promote it correctly, and then I just stopped promoting it altogether, because I was like, you know what, I just want to see what this thing does, because if people don't share it, then it doesn't matter. So I wanted to just see what it did on its own. And then I immediately started working on a part 2. I knew it was going to get taken down, and I knew that I was going to make a softer version that wouldn't get taken down. So I'm working on that now.
So were you going to do the part 2 and put it up on YouTube, and then have that one lead them back to the part 1 on the website? On the website,
yeah.
Okay.
And that's exactly how I want to do it, because I think that, you know, honestly, I didn't go on a tirade on social media. I wasn't going off and telling people, like, you know, look at what YouTube's doing. They're censoring, because everyone knows now. It's just everyone knows.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
And it wasn't the point. And, you know, I wasn't going for a marketing tool, if you know what I mean, by saying, like, look, it's been censored. But I was really, in a sense, testing direct communication with YouTube, direct communication with Bill Gates, you know, direct communication with the film directly to the audience. Like, that's why I even tell people at the beginning of the film, if you're not in the mood, you know, and I put a word to it. It's like your latte. Like, if you don't want to fuck your latte up right now, you know, then just click off of this video, go enjoy some nice music, you know, no harm, no foul. Because I'm only speaking to my tribe. I'm only speaking to a very specific group of people. And so you could tell the way I'm speaking to them, there's a lot of givens. I'm just saying, like, listen, there's this, there's that, and here's what I thought when I saw this, and then I saw that, and then I was like, oh, no shit, right? So I'm showing a thought process, but it's a whole different way of making art with more levity, because conspiracy across the board, I'm more of an artist than I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm more of an artist than I am a filmmaker, because when I notice that there's room for improvement somewhere, like conspiracy, if I had to give it a face, it would be, you know, that's the conspiracy face, because you see that guy at the party when everyone else is trying to chill and just have a casual time. They're like, you heard about Building 7 and 9/11, right? And you know, you know what's happening right now.
Like Gwyneth Paltrow and the Royal Tenenbaums, you know, where she's in the picture.
Oh my God. Yeah. That was a interestingly dark film. Yeah. So that's what I'm just like, you know what, there's room for improvement, because the reason why conspiracy is so like, oh God, you're into conspiracy. Like, God, no, I don't want to hear a thing about it. I don't care about the research. You're just wrong. And that's just how it's going to be.
People think it's like a hobby, like a culture or something.
And that it's so fucking scary. Like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Why do we go to the doctor? Like, if you think you have cancer and you go to the doctor, do you want the, yes, it'll be a little bit scary to get those results, you know, but you want the results. You want to know so you can move forward accordingly. Yeah. Conspiracy, everyone's just like, no, don't tell me about that. Don't tell me we're being fucked. Don't tell me that the entire thing is rigged to screw us over. If I don't want to know about anything, it's that.
Like la 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 la.
That's the mentality. And really that's where fear overrides our own intelligence, because it's like there's a train barreling towards us and we're like, oh, I don't want to look to see if I'm sitting on the tracks. Shit. No, I know this is bad, but I'm not going to look. I'm just not going to look. I'm going to ignore the whole thought of me maybe being on the tracks.
Well, look what's going on right now with the coronavirus. There's so many intelligent people, even people that were in the health freedom community, that are buying into the lies, that I'm just shocked. I'm just like, how, like, you should know better. Like, why, like, how do you believe this stuff? This doesn't even make logical sense. And I know that you usually think logically about stuff, but because you're in fear, like, all that just shuts down. But you have to remember, people lose they don't know if they're really scared in a physical situation, they lose, they forget how to talk, they forget how to move, they forget how to walk, they lose function of their bodily fluids. Yeah. You
know? Well, this is, I think what you're pointing out is twofold. We are more than one mentality. We have many mentalities, and some call it personalities, but it's a mentality, really. We have many mentalities, and when we're in fear, our mentality gets poisoned and turned into another mentality. And that mentality is typified by us being reactive to the fear. So you can have very, very intelligent people that are not doing critical thinking. They usually do critical thinking unless you talk about conspiracy or unless you talk about this. And that's when they're like, bleh, right? You have really intelligent people, but then you send a girl their way and they're dumb as shit, right? You send a pretty girl to them and then they're dumb as shit. So intelligence, IQ tests in the morning as opposed to at noon will be different. And if you take an IQ test today and then take another one tomorrow and then another one tomorrow, you'll realize everyone wants this static, oh, my IQ is blah, blah, blah. It's just like, and you prepared for that and you were in the best optimal state for that, but try going on a bender and waking up in the morning and taking that same IQ test. Try being in fear and taking that test. So we are not one stage of intelligence. And that's where the old economic systems, where there's a natural pecking order, there's the laborers, and then there's us. There's the aristocracy, right? And that's basically the mentality thing. And then the other part of that is truth. Like when we're talking about, are people addicted to truth? Are people seeking truth? They are when they're in this mentality, but when they're in fear and they don't even realize it, because a lot of people, you can't tell they're in fear because they have such sophisticated masks to make it like, no, I'm not in fear. I'm just going to shut down your arguments and stand over here like I know everything, right? That's a mask that a lot of people, that all mainstream media uses. They use that mask.
No pun intended or pun intended.
Right. So when we're looking for truth, we say, well, I'm a truth seeker. When are you a truth seeker? And when are you not a truth seeker? Because when you're saying you see people that are very intelligent that are buying the lie, that's because it's happening right now, as opposed to 9/11. Most people who woke up to 9/11, it was years after the fact. Now we're in the middle of it and people are waking up to the fact that this doesn't smell right. So I either have to believe that shit's going down right now, and that brings me into this fear mentality. So I either do what? I either be like, oh, well, you know what? I'm not going to talk about any of those problems, and I'm just going to teach people how to do yoga because it empowers them, right? And it ignores that part of, so they're like, well, I'm being constructive, right? But you're not addressing the actual problem. So it's like, yoga is great, and it could save some people's lives, but if you're on the sinking Titanic, would you be teaching people yoga? So the real thing about intelligence is knowing how to draw into your past experience all your tools, everything you've ever learned, and address the situation that's happening right now, and then move forward in the most intelligent way, while not just like a bull charging in that direction, but also like a cheetah. You're running in that direction, but once you realize, oh fuck, I was like 0.3 degrees off course, and in a year I'm going to be in the wrong destination. So I need to adjust course, right? So we need to be agile, adaptive, and intelligent. But that means most people who are intelligent, when they're not in fear, they make most people think that they're intelligent when they are in fear, because they put on the right mask. So the bottom line is we need to be very open and candid and honest with who we are as the peddlers of hope. So, you know, I don't really get many people saying that I'm peddling hope by saying, yes, there's solutions to this 5G world. Yes, there's solutions to the coronavirus lies and the vaccine mandates and, you know, all that fear. Yes, there's solutions, but I'm not peddling hope, because I'm talking about the problems specifically. I'm pointing them out. And I'm also not drawing people into, well, yes, if we're talking about vaccines, do we really need to be pointing out pedophilia, right? So you need to keep things in their proper lanes, right? And so that's the thing about art, is if it's not intelligent enough, it's just cool. And then you're in the industry of what's cool, you know, and that's where everything, that's Lady Gaga. Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, but it's brainwashing you. Yeah, but it's so cool. That's what it's turned into, is the industry of cool. Whereas, you know, everyone fucking loved, you know, Limitless. Oh, it's so great. Psychedelica. Oh, it's so great. Yeah. There's conspiracy going on right now in this coronavirus, whatever the hell it is, you know, and there's a big move to take away your freedoms. Well, everyone who was talking to me and trying to get me on their podcast about psychedelics and all that kind of stuff, a lot of them have said, yeah, come and talk to us on our podcast. But a lot of them have just cut off all contact, because they're like, oh, we thought you were, you know, for, you know, mind opening, you know, psychedelics, limitless, kind of like Ben Greenfield, you know, that type of stuff. Like, you're talking about conspiracy, that's not my bag. Well, the thing is I don't have a bag, because I try as much as I can muster to actually be for the awakening. And awakening has to happen through truth, and it has to happen through the proper use of tools that are available to us. So the bottom line is there are solutions, but you need to rattle yourself out of this stupid little coma we're all in, this sickness that we're all stricken by. We need to address it. And no solution, no amount of self-help books are going to help us out of the bullshit that we're in right now. You know, so that's the nature of what I bring that's different than the self-help that's out there. Is the self-help, it doesn't want to address the core of the problem, because it keeps changing, and then you just turn into a conspiracy theorist, because you keep having to talk about what is the problem. Well, it's growing, it's developing. The solution.
Be positive, man. Just think positive thoughts. No
right.
Negativity. Like, that's one thing. I think there's some validity and purpose to the New Age movement, but that's kind of like how it's become, like, the sickness has infiltrated that. It's made people very apathetic and very, like, in, you know, like basically in a coma. Like, people want to deny, you know, they don't want to talk about the world's problems. They'll say stuff like, oh, well, they chose that in a past life, or they'll say, oh, it's prophecy, or, you know, oh, like, you know, yeah, just, that's too much negativity. I don't want to talk about the starving children of the world or the sex trafficked children of the world. I just want to talk about, like, I want to, like, focus on, like, the positive thoughts and the positive things. And
yeah. Well, and so you know what? Everything's hijacked. All information is already hijacked. Yeah. All of it. So the good stuff is hijacked. You know, the bad stuff is hijacked. Everything has been hijacked, but it's not by specific people. It's by the mentality. It's by the sick mentality that cultural systems have just become this whole thing that we live in. Like, so we don't even question the legal system. We don't even question those things. Those are givens. Let's move on from there. And so for the most part, the New Age, I saw this thing about the Hyperborean solution, I guess, to 5G. And it was just saying, like, And I actually liked what it was saying on some level, but then found that it was not complete enough, because what it was saying was that 5G and all the frequencies, we are the masters of our frequency, so it doesn't even affect us. It's only if you believe in it that it affects you. This is not true, because the thing is that assumes that you have become an enlightened master, meaning you've gone all the way into your lineage, all of that programming, all of your conditional cultural programming, all the programming from any aspect. You've sensed it, you've neutralized it, you've worked it out, and you are in your center completely. That is when I believe that. But for most people to be like, oh, well, all you have to do is think positive thoughts and 5G won't affect you. Wrong. The only ones who can actually get to that point, like those people who drink poison and they're fine afterwards.
Yeah, or they walk across hot coals and not get burned. Like
right.
Right, yeah.
It is possible. It is possible. But how many people can do it just because they know the principle exists?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so this is the problem with the hijacked New Age movement. It's talking about real magic, but when it's not practically rooted in, well, here are the steps, and where are you really? Are you really here? Because everyone likes to think that they've been meditating for years, when you add it up and they may have done 20 total hours of meditation in 20 years, right? So, oh, but I've been meditating for 20 years and that's what I have on my website, you know, and it's online, it must be true. So like, this is the issue that we deal with, is we don't know how to discern between fact and fiction. If we knew how to do that correctly, then it wouldn't matter if David Icke was telling the truth or lies. It wouldn't matter if, you know, Donald Trump was telling the truth or lies. We would be able to see through the bullshit. Our discernment blade is sharpened. But now most people outsource it to, well, science. I'll read these magazines. I believe it's science. And everyone who uses the word science, right? Yeah. You know, like.
Yeah, that's a trigger word for people. It's like science is becoming a trigger word, you know? Yeah. NPR, I'll listen to NPR because NPR is cultured. So, you know, right?
It's like, the branding, it's the packaging.
Yeah,
like,
it really is.
It's truth, because look at the branding. It's in such a great package. It's like, look at this energy drink. It says energy. I must have energy afterwards.
It's organic.
Yeah. Oh, it'll, you know, bliss. Oh my God, I'm going to feel bliss. And we don't realize it, but even the people who are like, I see straight through all the lies. Yeah, I'll buy it. Go ahead and ring me up. You know what I mean? We still go for the promises that they're trying to sell us.
Yeah.
So honestly, but you can't avoid it.
We're all susceptible to it. We're all susceptible. Sorry.
Yes. No, we're all susceptible to it, and you can't avoid it because even gurus use words. Liars use words. Gurus use words. Liars and truthful people, they use words, and they may even use a lot of crossover words, the same words. Yeah. How do you tell?
Their intention, right? Maybe like, is it gonna disempower you, or is it gonna empower you? That's how I make the distinction. Does it leave you dependent or independent? So even if I'm, you know, I have my subscribers and stuff, I'm always giving them sources and links and stuff. I'm like, hey, look into it, do your own research. Like, don't listen to me. I mean, listen to me, you're listening to me, but you know, like you got to look into this for yourself, right? As opposed to me just saying, trust me, you know, not making them dependent on me, right? Yeah. So whenever somebody's making you dependent on them solely, you can have people that you're inspired by that teach you things, but once it gets to the point where you're dependent on them, where you can't really break away, then that's where it gets nefarious. That's the distinction I've had to make.
And it's a very subtle distinction, because there's a lot of really, really intelligent people that have the exact words you want to hear, and they even believe it. You're like, oh man, they're so honest, they're so genuine. They even believe it. So there's nothing about what they're doing that's raising a red flag. It's on us to know whether it's complete or not. Because the thing is it doesn't matter. Like, you know, Joe Dispenza, I think he's 99.9% right, but it's not complete. My work, I'm not going to put a number on how right I think it is. That would be very biased of me. But my work is not complete. No one's work is complete. So does your branding promise the right thing? Can you deliver? And what you're doing with branding and what you're doing with words and promises is you're calling out to your tribe. Like, who wants this? All right. Now that I've got your attention because you want this, here's what I think it is. But if you're very honest, this is what I think it is. You're not telling people you have to stay here. Nothing out there is true. This is the best. You know, I know there's like every burger joint says the world's best burger, right?
Yeah.
You know, every single one of them is the world's best. And there's a paradox. But like, if you're not making false promises, but you're really saying, listen, like, this has been proven to help people. It's been proven to help people. You might be one of those people. You make the call whether you are one of those people or not.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of world we need to step into more, is where we are more discerning. We know what truth is, not because we're getting some external source telling us or informing us on what truth is because we've remembered. It's all about remembering, because all of it is within anyway.
Got you. So 2 more questions, I guess we'll wrap up. Did the Corona situation prompt you to make your movie, or were you already planning? Or was it just good timing?
You know, it was perfect timing. I was saying for a couple of years that I was going to be making Esoteric Agenda 2 and Chimatica 2. I had no plan.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm making
I'm
Chimatica 2.
excited for the Chimatica 2 too.
Yeah, I know. So Esoteric Agenda, I didn't know that I was going to make it. Well, I knew that I wanted to make it, but I had no clear-cut plan until quarantine started, and I realized at first, at the beginning of quarantine, I think you and I even, you know, talked a couple times at that point. I didn't realize that now was my time for about a week. And then I was like, no, this is it. Like, you know, everything that I've been saying I want to do, all my contracts stopped, all my external work gone. What am I going to do? And so I was either stuck worrying about money and worrying about just landing contracts, or I was like, you know, now is the only time. If I don't do it now, if I don't start it now, it will never get finished. I know it. So I started it, and 6 weeks later, it was done. And the only reason it didn't take me 4 weeks is because when I was about to release it at 4 weeks, I realized I didn't do the solutions enough justice. There was so much room for improvement. So yes, it was the Corona event that caused me to finally buckle down and make it. And I didn't pre-produce it. I didn't draft up a development idea, nothing. I just started editing exactly how I did Esoteric Agenda 1.
Oh, wow. And then, you know, I love what you said, because I'm an artist too. So I love, like, really resonated with me what you said at the end of the film about making art. Making art is the way out. I don't know if maybe the way out's not the right choice of words, but
it's the way in. It's the way in. I think there's an exclusivity to our mentality now, and the inclusivity, the oneness that so many spiritual people and even other people that put it into different terminology are looking for. That oneness. Art is our vehicle. You know, we have thinking, and thinking goes all the way up all around the body with fascia, but all the way up the spine. We think with the base of our spine. We think with our heart. We think with all our organs. We think with our brain. But the thing is the higher faculties are art. Like, we can just talk or we can sing. And singing, putting melody to it and rhythm and stuff like that, is encoding it with more information that the soul and the heart know how to decipher more. We're talking about higher art forms. And so the thing about art as the way in is we are trapped inside of our heads and our little bodies, thinking we're so separate from our environment, even though we know when the soil is sick, we're sick. We know when our environment is sick, we're sick. We know that, but we still think it's external. There's me and then there's it.
Yeah.
You know, because we see, look at this line, look at all these defining lines. There's that, and then there's this. Science proves that there's energy that passes through us from our body, exuded out, microbiology in and without us. We cough it out. We get it on our hands. We get it in our mouths. We know we're one with our environment, but we still think that that's some new age crock of shit. So what I'm saying is art is our way of, in a sense, adjusting our neurology and cracking it open in order to merge with that oneness. So it's our way in. The system, is the mind. The system that we are structured within is the way we engage with our economy. It's the way we engage with politics. It's the way we engage with all the bullshit. When we crack open of it, that's our way back in. It's inclusive. It has all those things. And everyone who even thinks they're in their own private little club, you realize, oh, poor, sad, secluded little people that think they're not one with all of this. And that's what psychedelics cause us to realize. What we're doing here, what I'm doing with my art, and what I think all art should be focused on to make it the most empowering, is exactly what plant medicines teach most people. And that is, the solution is our chronically feeling like we are not deserving of the love that is all around us. And it is chronically feeling like we cannot trust anything around us. And now eventually it's, we can't even trust our own thought processes. We need the science institutions to tell us what's real and what's not. We need media to tell us what our philosophies about the world are. We need, all these documentaries and books and stuff to tell us, like, what is this thing I'm experiencing called life, when all it is a remembering. It's our way back in. Art is our truest expression of who we are. It can be in any, it can take on any form. Media, politics, it can take on any form it wants to. Music, sculpting, architecture, anything it wants to do, it can, because it's the expression of humanity. So that's why art, I had to really clarify that, because a lot of people think, oh, you think I need to start knitting or make a sculpture or write a song? I'm like, you need to find your way to be more honest with yourself, because everyone who's bullshitting the world is bullshitting themselves, and it's only the people who realize, I don't fucking know. I don't know what this is, but I'm closer to knowing what it is by admitting that I don't know what this is. I can speak to it and it speaks back. And then I engage with it and it engages back. And that's reality. Every time I do something, I get feedback. That's why business is always adapting and changing to the new world we're in. Economics, everything, magic, it's always pick up on what's happening in the now and adjust course. So that's aligning yourself with reality. That's business, that's magic, that's art, that's any of those things. But it needs to be all inclusive. And we need to get rid of these boundaries where we think that, like, oh, if I could just become into power, what I would do is I would kill everyone who made the bad system, and then we'll start the good system, right? Thumbs up, sound great. We're going to murder relentlessly the people that murdered the people before, and then we'll have the good system come in.
You become what you hate. Yeah.
Right? You become what you hate. You become the problem in order to solve the problem. Well, that's the problem. That's the problem, is we only see one solution to the problem of what we think is happening in the world. And the real problem is we haven't cracked open our mind and we haven't opened our heart back up to love. So there's nearly 7 billion people that are in a very conflicted and compromised situation. We say they're immunocompromised, but what they really are is sick at heart. They're sick in their heart. They're sick in their minds. And because of that, it comes out in this myriad of rising illnesses, right? It comes out in all these sick, perverted, twisted ways, but we're sick at heart. Art reminds us that we are actually healthy. We have created this chronic contraction to make us unhealthy. Art breaks that back open. That's why not going medicine for the people. He's saying it's music and it's medicine for the people. And he is actually changing millions of people's lives, their minds, their hearts, because he said a few words and he put it to music. We are that powerful.
And it's like, art also crosses all cultural and language barriers as well. So it's understood on a universal level. Yeah. Yeah. But I guess I'm gonna wrap up because we'll be on here for 10 hours, Ben. You know it.
Yeah. This is great. I'm glad there's a place like your program where we could go off like we did, because I haven't gone off like this in a while.
Yeah, it feels great, definitely. Where could people find your work? Please let them know, and I'll also put links in the description.
All right.
Where can they see Esoteric Agenda 2?
Go to benjosephstewart.com. It's on the homepage, but the homepage might be changing here soon. The Esoteric Agenda 2 will stay there, but benjosephstewart.com/media will take you to all of my films except for the stuff that's on Gaia. So,
okay. So,
yeah.
you know, somebody actually already reposted, unless that was you, they reposted it back on YouTube.
Really? Someone did?
Yeah.
And it's still on there right now?
I checked like a day or so ago. It was still up there.
Send me that link. That's interesting.
Okay,
I want to see who's posting it.
Okay. I made a copy. I made a copy right away. I knew they were going to take it down. Sorry.
To me, it's,
just
it's for
like
people.
Keeping, though. I mean, when you had the link up, I shared your link. So I'm not sure.
Perfect. And you know what? Seriously, like, just to go back to why I made the first few films and why they were free online and why this is free is because I don't take so much credit for these films that I think other people aren't allowed to upload it onto their YouTube. So I'm cool with that, but I do take a look at the people who post it, because when I made my first few films, there were people making more money on my films than myself, because they were better at info marketing and all that kind of stuff. So I don't really mind. I just call people out if they're not doing it with heart.
Got you. Okay, yeah. Let me see if I can find out. Send it to you.
Badass.
All right, guys. That wraps it up. I'll talk to you later. Peace, room, bye. Stop.
How long?